And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. Our NBA team previews continue, and let's head to the Pacific Northwest where we go to talk the Portland Trailblazers. And who better to talk about the Portland Trailblazers than someone who we've talked about before with the Blazers on this show. But since then, since our chat, he has gone on to host the Bleav in Blazers podcast, an excellent podcast. You got to go ahead and catch as part of the Bleav Network. It is returning, Peter Sampson. Peter, great to have you back on. Truly appreciate it.
Man, appreciate you having me, man. Things have been good?
Things have been pretty good. Just, just as you know, doing the grind, trying to go ahead, rise up the ratings, pissing off every Lakers fan that we can come in contact with.
Love it.
Or at least seems like it in the comments each and every day. And I guess if you're doing that, you're doing okay. So yeah, bills get paid. I'm not, but as I said in another interview, I'm not anywhere near Mr. Beast money. But again, I have the opportunity to go ahead and speak to individuals such as yourself around the world about great topics such as this. So in that essence, I'm truly blessed. So again, thank you, Peter, for taking time with me on the show today. Absolutely. So let's get into the Blazers. Blazers is a very interesting team for me as I'm watching them. And their offseason seemed to be even more interesting. The way that they build, I'll put it to you like this, because when Rich Paul made the statements when LeBron signed his 1 year, final year, or when he said he was going to pick up the final year on his contract, a $52.6 million deal. He said that the Lakers seem to be on two different pathways. One where kind of want to win right now, and they kind of want to make sure they have that cap space for down the road at 26 and 27. So they kind of did both. Everybody who I've spoken to so far seems to be saying that got to be doing both. Comes to Portland, it's kind of different story because they've got, actually it is. It's similar in the fact that it is the youth you want to go with, and seemingly you have a very talented five that you could put out there. Young, it's going to take its lumps, but in the end, I see a pathway where there's some really great success. But in the midst of all this, you have some veterans with some very sizable contracts sitting there as well. I don't know what kind of quandary that makes it for Chauncey Billups this upcoming season. I understand the Damian Lillard part of it. I don't understand really why they had to sign him right away on it, outside of just loyalty to the organization. But the Drew Holiday trade still kind of, I can't wrap my head around that. I know having Grant there isn't all the great thing that it was cracked up to be a few years ago. Robert Williams, Time Lord does have some value, and I'm still not sure why he's there, especially with young Hansen, seemingly everybody's cult favorite right now. So what do you, as a guy who covers the Portland Trailblazers on a daily basis, think of it? Because if I can't figure it out, hopefully you can.
I think I can, and
okay,
I sort of get the impression, like, you look at this team, you look at the roster, you look at really how they overperformed basically the entire second half last year. They had a top 5 defense. They finished about 500, but if you look at the expectations going into that year, finishing a 41 game stretch around 500 is a massive improvement.
Exactly.
I expect more of the same, but if I'm being honest with myself, you look at this roster and I could see, man, I could see this team maybe fighting for that 8 spot. Could I also see the wheels falling off and them winning, say, 29, 30 games? I mean, I don't think it's likely, but is it in the realm of possibility? Yeah, it is. And all those variables that you mentioned, Chauncey Billups, for a guy who maybe isn't the best X's and O's coach out there, and by that I mean he's just demonstrably, kind of in the bottom end there, he's got his work cut out for him. He really does. And what he's skated on for the last few years, it's his leadership sort of intangibles. Like, that dude, regardless of what we think about his scheme, and I certainly have thoughts about it. That guy's a leader of men, and keeping guys locked in when they're just going through the motions for 3 straight years of a rebuild is incredibly difficult to do. But now, man, he's really got to make decisions when it comes to playing time. Jeremy Grant for years, and even last year, the first half of last year, like he gets time because he's the vet ahead of Tamani Kamara. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Eventually, Kamara won that spot. It should have happened sooner. So now you've got, Dame obviously not going to play this year, but you've got Drew Holiday. He was picked up for a reason. We'll talk about that shortly. But whose spot does he take? Does Shaden Sharp, does he start? Does he come off the bench? Scoot Henderson, is he going to get the opportunity to build on that big leap that he took last year? A lot of questions going into this season.
I will say this: when I saw Scoot Henderson play here against Victor Wembanyama in Henderson, a suburb of Las Vegas, in that very publicized game on national television, I saw an amazing skill set at that point in time, and I thought that he had every chance to succeed almost on the same level as Victor Wembanyama. I came off as impressed with Scoot from that game as just what I did with Victor at that point in time. I know the talk was Victor, 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 but people were talking about that, especially that first half by Scoot in that game. Flash forwarding years later, it hasn't worked itself quite out yet. But like you said, last year you saw cracks. You saw little things that made you impressed. Later in the season, he started to go ahead and progress quite a bit, getting a couple of 2010 games, getting a couple of very impressive games as far as a distributor and a scorer, started to shoot more consistently. I think, when do you go ahead and commit to him as far as the starter, along with Shaden Sharp, who could be an elite scorer in this league, but you're not sure because, again, like you said, it's just the differing ideals of what this organization is doing when they bring in a Drew Holiday. Yes, as a great mentor, but does Drew Holiday want to start? Because if he does, like you said, it could go back to that vet thinking once again.
Right. And with Scoot Henderson, it's interesting. I last time I spoke with you, it was before the season before last, if
Yes,
that
that's
makes
correct.
sense. And I know you've got a lot of episodes, so you probably don't want to dig through one. I had concerns about Scoot. I was excited about him. I Bleav as your co-host mentioned some skills, and I said, boy, I'm worried about that jumper. I am worried about that jumper. Well, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
I've been worried about the jumper.
And still be worried about that jumper.
But he's tweaked his form a little bit, and he has found some real success. Now, I
Good.
mean, it's not like he's Pete Clay Thompson or something like that. But in the back half of last season, we're talking a 37, almost 38% shooter. And with a guy with that athleticism, you're golden. Just as
Yeah.
long as you can be a somewhat threat from distance. But I think what a lot of people were surprised about is maybe they didn't watch that game like you did with Wembanyama, and you just hear about this athletic specimen, and you're thinking, okay, it's going to be like a peak Westbrook or a guy like that, a Ja Morant. But his athleticism, it's not really verticality. It's a quick first step, and it's not ground based, but it's a lot more front and back and fast twitch side to side. He's not going to get up and just yam in someone's face. And I think a lot of fans were really disappointed when they didn't see that. And then you combine that, going through a stretch of his rookie year where it's like, okay, dude's 60 games in and he's a 26% shooter from three. He's a bust. Well, he's not a bust. He's just a little bit of a slow adapter. I
Yeah.
think you start Scoot. I think even when he has his bad sort of, you look at the box score and, ooh, we got bad Scoot last night. Plus minus is it's an okay stat, but over the course of a season, a few months, it sort of shakes out to actually being indicative of a player's value. And Scoot is a positive even when he's not necessarily getting his. Maybe he's got some turnovers. It's just he plays within the flow of the offense. Anthony Simons is Boston's problem now. You can talk to them about that. And the ball's going to move with Scoot Henderson on the floor, even though look, that dude can get hot as anybody in the NBA, but you have to live with a bottom three defensive player. You have to live with, some 4 for 14 nights and just the ball stopping. So I think you have to start Scoot. You mentioned Shaden Sharp. Well, I would love to see it. Look, Portland's run that they went on last year, it started when Shaden Sharp got benched. It wasn't for
Mhm.
attitude. It wasn't for anything that typically a player gets benched for. He got called out on the defensive end by Chauncey Billups. And Shaden Sharp, if you've ever spoken with Shaden, been around Shaden, that the dude, he's the most quiet, famous person I've ever been around. Like, he's very introverted. No one really knows what he's thinking. He does not speak outside of what he needs to do. And it's not in like a hostile way. You talk to some guys that are kind of edgy.
Yeah.
He's just really introverted, so no one really knows. Like, is he going to be able to handle this? He's sort of anointed as the next big scoring two guard, at least in the Western Conference, and now he's getting benched. Well, he did handle it. And Portland started winning. Of course, Tumani Kamara, Donovan Clingan, Scoot to a degree. That defense starts picking up. I think at least they're going to start with him coming off the bench again. I think Drew Holiday is going to start with Scoot because Drew, I mean, you think of him, he's a point guard, right? But you think of those
Yeah.
Pelicans teams with Rajon Rondo, he can play off the ball. I think you're going to get kind of a double-headed monster there, at least in the opening stretches of the season. Scoot, Drew, Tamani Kamara, you're going to get Denny Avdia, and you're going to have Donovan Clingan. That's the kind of team that Chauncey Billups wants to see. It's outside of Clingan, it's fast, it's defensive, and it's switchable. Both guards, both forwards can basically guard 1 through 4. Maybe Scoot can't really guard a 4, but you're getting guys that can hedge off the screen. They can switch on demand and funnel everything towards Donovan Clingan.
Once again, I'm on with Peter Sampson. We're talking the Portland Trailblazers right here at the Lakers Fast Break. You talked about Denny Advia, and as we record this, the EuroLeague is continuing, and he has been just his usual self. He's been someone that, as of late in this year, he's blossomed into someone that really has been able to not only as a scorer improve his shooting, but as a distributor and a guy that makes other players better. Since the trade from Washington, which I'm assuming they probably regret now, they made a lot of good moves in Washington to build towards their future. One of them was not letting go of Denny Advia, and that's been to your benefit. There's actually two, like you talked about with Kamara. We on the show have talked about how much Kamara has done for your team and how good that kid really can be. But it all starts with your team, I think, as far as how far it wants to go on the success of Denny Advia.
I agree with you completely. Last year, Denny Avdia was the Trailblazers' best player last year. I don't think anyone that really watched can deny that. I loved that trade the minute it happened. I know maybe some people out here in Portland, a lot of people maybe don't watch Wizards basketball. They're not gluttons for punishment like you and I are. So I don't blame them for that. And they see, okay, 2 first-round picks and Malcolm Brogdon. Not that Brogdon had a future here. He was certainly a placeholder, and if you talk to him, he knew it.
Yeah.
But you go, wow, 2 first-round picks. I don't know. But look, I mean, one of them is conditional. The other one, they selected Bub Carrington with that pick, Brogdon's salary, and you bring in a Denny Avdia who, I mean, you look at the numbers. He's so versatile. You're talking a guy who can give you 18 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, a couple of steals, play switchable defense, maybe not on the level of Kamara, that second team all defense, but he's certainly not a negative there. And the other real benefit is Denny Avdia is probably on the best contract in the NBA. When the Blazers traded for him, he had just signed a 4-year deal. He was making, I Bleav, I don't have it in front of me, I want to say 16 million is what he made last year. It's a descending contract. So 3 years from now, when he hits his prime, he's going to make it $12.5 million. And you go, okay, that's nice. It's still the total value. Well, the Blazers being a young team, Shaden Sharp's about to be due for an extension. The following year, Scoot Henderson is due for an extension. Donovan Clingan the year after that. Then you have Tumani Kamara, who made $1.8 million last year because he's a second rounder. That guy's going to get paid. I've heard whispers on the deal. It's not obscene. I'm speculating. Wink, wink. Probably in the realm of 23, 24 million a year. So having that descending contract gives you just that little bit of wiggle room when all those extensions have kicked in. But yeah, Avdia's the guy, like he stirs the drink, man. And talking to Chauncey Billups, he's got a rule. If Avdia gets the rebound It's his ball. He gets to just go, and he has full run to just take it coast to coast, whether he dishes. More often than not, he's just taken right into a defender's chest. I've even seen him do it against LeBron. I mean, watching, he had I want to say, a pretty nice performance against the Lakers. It's rare to see players, even as aggressive as Abdia, even at LeBron's age, be that aggressive. I know he's lost a half step on defense, but he's not a small man. He's not a weak man. Guys aren't
Yeah.
really going to challenge him that way. And seeing Avdia do that, he's what kind of gets the Blazers going, even if maybe the outside shot not falling.
Absolutely. And you got that space heater in the middle.
Yeah.
I know that the Lakers have the lasting effects of the DeAndre Ayton era, but one of the byproducts of that is the increased playing time of Donovan Clingan, and also the possibility as a backup center, if depending if you move on from Robert Williams or not, Time Lord, how much longer you going to go ahead with Time Lord on that, is Young Hansen. And I did see Young Hansen, yeah, and he does have a skill set that's very interesting in a limited fashion, but I know that he has to build up stamina first, because he, using the wrestling vernacular, blows up in quite a short amount of time. But you can see that if he ever overcomes that, can become a potent weapon in this league. But tell me about your center mix-up as far as how you have it and how you see it playing itself out.
Yeah, it's interesting. And before the Lakers acquired DeAndre Ayton after the buyout, which we can certainly talk about as well. I've watched my fair share of DeAndre Ayton, and simultaneously disappointing and gets a terrible rap that is undeserved. So we can speak about that. But the Blazers actually have 4 centers under contract. They also have Duop Reith,
Yes.
who has played fairly significant time in the last couple years, but maybe it's just sort of because Portland wasn't that good. And
Situational.
yeah, absolutely. But he was a teammate of Young Hansen's over in China, so they have
Mhm.
familiarity there. But it all starts at this point with Ayton moving on to the Lakers and trying to, I mean, really make a deep push into the playoffs. It is the Donovan Clingan era. Conditioning still a little bit of a concern. I mean, just young guys out of college, that massive conditioning can be a problem. But I mean, you look at him and the way he plays, and I know everyone said it at UConn, but the dude, he's just a winner. It's just the things that he does. Like, he truly doesn't always put up great stats. I know his rebounding percentage, per 48 is top 3 in the NBA, both offensive and defense. I mean, he just gobbles up boards, but he's just one of these guys. He's like a throwback 80s center. He's like Mark Eaton or something like that. Like, just this huge guy, and it's like, I dare you to come in there. The defensive instincts are already spectacular. Again, the fatigue we've seen in the fourth quarter sometimes. I do wonder about injury susceptibility. Has nothing to really do with him. It's just, again, when you're 7'2", 280, like, hey, you might get hurt. But he just makes winning plays. And when you're talking about an anchor, again, with the 4 players alongside him that I expect to start this season, that is a serious defensive unit. Now, beyond
Yeah.
that, Rob Williams III, I mean, he's been really nice for Portland when he gets in there, but it's every 5th game. I mean, I hate to say it because he's a cool dude and he's a really impactful player. I'm afraid that he's just sort of shot. Like, there's a reason they haven't traded him. Like, why wouldn't you trade him last year? I guarantee if he could give a contender something, there would have been an offer and you probably would have taken it, right? So I'm not
Yeah.
sure there. I know everyone has kind of wishful thinking about prying Robert Williams III. And you know what? I hope someone does, and he's able to contribute to them, because Portland is clearly looking to turn their page and kind of continue with the youth group. But when he's able to go, he's kind of the Rob Williams of old. He's still closing out space, great rebounder, great defensive instincts, sort of the captain of the floor out there. Um, Young Hansen, I mean, a fun guy. I know everyone's saying, Chinese Jokic. I'll say Chinese Sin Jun, who is baby Jokic. I know it's a little convoluted. Uh, Similar skill set. I don't think it's fair. You can't compare anyone to Jokic, man.
No.
But again, just he seems to have that vision, that passing ability. He's a little slower. I do like that despite the fact that, as you mentioned, he needs to increase his stamina pretty significantly. The Chinese basketball league, it's a little physical. You look at it like
Yeah.
those guys kind of get after it a little bit. And the fact that he was able to kind of deal with that bodes well for the NBA. I just need sort of the processing time, which is a weird thing to say if someone has this great vision, right? But he still just seemed a couple times in summer league to maybe be a beat slow with that, threading the needle pass. That being said, I expect him to play this year. Again, Rob Williams, Dwap Reith, you're not going to get much out of those guys. Those are kind of
Yeah.
emergency dudes. So Young Hansen, don't be surprised, 15, 16 minutes a game. But most of it is going to be Donovan Clingan.
Let's just say this. I think that some of the eyes in Portland are going to take a look at what's going on in Memphis with Zach Edey. Zach Edey is just a little tiny bit bigger than Donovan Clingan, but similar size. And he's already having health issues. And I know that's what you were talking about as far as the concern there with Donovan Clingan. So I'm hoping that he will stay away from that and you'll get to see him at least play to his full potential. Same thing with Jan Hansen. When you have two big space eaters like that, that is always a concern as far as health going forward.
Bro, I mean, I'm in Portland too, man. Bill Walton, Sam Bowie, Greg Oden, Arvydas Sabonis before he was drafted in '86, didn't come over until the mid '90s. I mean, we are very aware of injured centers, and
Yeah.
limiting even Donovan Clingan, maybe resting him second to back to back. I think the Blazers are going to take a pretty cautious approach as they sort of build his stamina and build his body up. And again, you look at, I mean, 4 centers on the roster. It's in the modern NBA, that's sort of nuts, right? But again,
Yeah.
to your point, I think maybe that's the reason for keeping those guys, even a Rob Williams, where you're only going to get 16 minutes out of him every third game.
So there's a lot of money as far as the roster is concerned tied up in a small amount of players because of the youth that you have surrounding that. Those players develop, those players will get more expensive, et cetera, et cetera. But what do you do right now with those veterans that you have? Damian Lillard is going to finish out his career in Portland, however he sees fit. That's fine. And again, you signed him this year essentially to do a Kawhi Leonard and do nothing. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? But there's also, but I get that he's on the mend. There's obviously something there. But with Drew Holiday and Robert Williams and Jeremy Grant primarily, those guys for what they're going to contribute, that money is just going to start sitting there, and it gets larger and it gets more daunting to the Portland fans each and every day as it goes along.
Yeah. Now, Drew Holiday, I know by a lot of metrics, Drew had a little bit of a down year. I know some of it was injury.
Well, he's also in his mid-30s as well.
It's true. That's very true. I still think that he provides value to a contender. I don't expect Drew Holiday to be here the season after this upcoming season. I think he's a placeholder for Dame. And then at that, and let me clarify that. If Drew is here after next year, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong with Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp. Like the plan failed that you've been working on for the last 3 years. It would be an unmitigated disaster. So that's sort of my thought process as to what's going on with that trade, why that happened, even with the contract and maybe the positional fit. But Jeremy Grant, on the other hand, I'm going to mute for 1 second. Pardon me. Jeremy Grant, on the other hand, you are not getting rid of that deal, man. He is a Trailblazer for another 3 seasons. And it's frustrating because, look, I think Joe Cronin, the Blazers GM, has done actually a very admirable job. You look at the talent he acquired, tearing down the Neil O'Shea roster, CJ McCollum and Robert Covington, all those guys. Damian Lillard forces his way out. It's understandable. And with the whole Miami issue, what did they actually offer? What did they not? Well, they really didn't offer anything. They just sort of sat back and waited while Dame tried to force it, his way there. And they end up getting Tamani Kamara. They end up getting Brogdon, who they flip for. Um, to Washington for Denny Avdia. Of course, Drew Holiday, part of that deal that ends up being Brogdon. Now Drew is back as a signing. They have the Milwaukee first-round pick, a couple pick swaps in 2028, 2030. If you're looking at Giannis, who already essentially has nothing around him at this point, if he decides to go, those picks are going to be incredibly valuable, which sort of tangentially leads to maybe that two timeline thing. Why do you bring in a vet like Drew Holiday? The Blazers need to make the playoffs before 2028 because they owe the Bulls a conditional first-round pick. It's
That's
lottery.
right.
It's lottery protected. So, of course, it hasn't conveyed. This is going back to like a Larry Nance deal from 3 or 4 years ago. If that doesn't convey, when that pick swap hits, the Bulls can get that Milwaukee pick, and it's going to be valuable. So the Blazers are all in, even if it turns out like, why did we sign this 35-year-old Drew Holiday who has or trade for him with these 3 years left? Because they have to get in. So, I mean, it's interesting. It's. I think he's done a good job. All things being said, with that Damian Lillard deal, but I haven't loved all of those moves that he's made.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm in Los Angeles, and most of the Lakers fan base can tell you pretty much the same thing about one Rob Pelinka. I mean, for every Luka Doncic that gets
given
fallen
to you
into his lap, yes, there are other moments which we'd like to forget. And trust me, we have discussed it 365 days a year on this show. So
Sure.
I will leave it at that. But let's say everything goes right this year. You're talking about the need to get into the playoffs in the not too distant future. Well, if everything went right this year, you didn't say everything went right, but let's say you're even talking about play-in type deal. But let's say everything goes right, from the young backcourt of Sharp and Henderson blowing up to the forward tandem of Kamara and Advia really coming into their own. Klingon, giving you 20 to 25 minutes of 15 and 10 like numbers. Let's say everything goes right, and the veterans providing solid leadership on the back end as well. What do you see an outcome for this team?
Yeah, if everything goes as you said, this might sound pessimistic, but it's not. If everything goes as you said, I think they truly do sneak in to the playoffs with the 8 seed, maybe the 7, and that's not a knock on their talent. Look at the rest of the West. It is, and I know it feels like we've been saying that for 15 years now, but it seems to continue to get better. I mean, you just go up and down. I mean, who's out? Minnesota, Houston. On and on. The Lakers, of course. They're OKC, your champs. On and on and on. So where can the Blazers actually slot in there? What I expect, and I know I said I think they have a lot of potential sort of variance as to where they could land. I expect them to make the play-in. Anything can happen, but I'm not necessarily expecting a play-in or a playoff berth this year. If everything goes perfectly, maybe they have home court advantage. They're actually in the 7 or 8 seed, which is a play-in spot. They actually make the playoffs. I think if you're a Blazers fan, you're thrilled with that. You win 42 games, 41 games, 44 games, whatever it ends up being. You actually get in, and then your first round fodder, because any young team that you've ever watched, that's sort of how it goes, right? They're terrible, and then wow, they could be spooky next year, and then you get in and everyone gets excited and they get absolutely obliterated in the first round, and then all of a sudden they actually start winning. Maybe they win a series, maybe they make the conference finals 2 years out. That's how it goes. That's the same path that the Blazers are going to follow, but the first step is you got to get in. I don't know if they will, but I do expect that play-in spot. Whatever happens after that, who knows?
Once again, I'm on with Peter Sampson. Please go ahead and make sure you check out the great work. And at the end, he is going to tell you where he's at, how you can find his great work on a regular basis right here. But before we head on out, as part of these team previews, I always talk at length about the team that you cover, But I always ask from an outsider's perspective about the upcoming season for the Los Angeles Lakers. It helps me shape my own opinion on that, because sometimes somebody will tell me something that I maybe can't see because I'm more connected to the actual team involved. So with that, you know about Skinny Luca. You know about LeBron going into what may be his final season. We'll have to wait and see. I'll have to see it to believe it. You see the team that we have around you. DeAndre Ayton coming from Portland, burning that bridge down after you burned the bridge down in Phoenix. That's 2 down. But I will ask you this. There are a lot of Lakers on this team that have a lot to prove for their financial future, DeAndre Ayton among them. I think that for at least the regular season, that may bode very well. Plus the fact that Luka is in shape and possibly looking like he wants to be on an MVP-ish type run. I'm not saying MVP yet, but the numbers as far as that is concerned. So that could lead to a strong regular season, in my opinion. How do you see this team forming out, and especially with the addition of a really sore spot for the Lakers in DeAndre Ayton?
Yeah, I think the Lakers are going to be pretty good this year. I think they're going to be entertaining. And look, I'm from Portland. I cover the Blazers. I'm obligated to be a Laker hater. But if
Of
I'm being
course.
real, I think they're going to be fun, and I think they're going to be pretty good. I mean, Skinny Luca, chip on his shoulder. I mean, he was already. We don't need to rehash how insane that whole situation is.
Oh,
You know,
excuse me. Thank you, Nico.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you, Nico. Oh man, that guy. I saw just the other day he was in a restaurant and someone walked by and was like, "Hey, there's Nico. Hey, we still hate you, man. We still hate you." He's not. He will know. He will never know peace again. But Luca, already a top 5 player. Now he looks to be in shape. LeBron, I don't think it's going to be LeBron's last year, because I think we would have heard there's going to be sort of a big thing with that. But you're sort of seeing the passing of the torch, right? Which is the real thing with acquiring Luka Doncic. So just having that tandem together, I do like Austin Reeves. I know he's got a little something to prove. And you mentioned DeAndre Ayton with something to prove. I don't know how it's going to go, but I do know that you are getting contract year DeAndre Ayton. He is up for a new deal. He will be a free agent. And when that man is locked in, and I've seen him locked in, he is a top 5, 7 center in the NBA without exaggeration. It's unbelievable how good he is. And he does get a bad rap, and some of it is he's just kind of awkward. He's kind of a goofy dude. There's nothing wrong with that, he just is. But I'm sure you heard the story where we had the snow and he couldn't make it to the arena. Like, he got clowned nationally for days for that. And if you've been to Portland and you've been in the West Hills, like, we here do not have the infrastructure for snow or ice. I live in a totally flat area. I couldn't get out. He lives in these hills. He has a Lamborghini. Dude's from the Bahamas, went to college in Arizona, played in the pros in Arizona. He had never seen it before. The team tried to send a staffer up to get him and could not get him. So that's unfair. But on the flip side, I swear this dude would rather be DeAndre Ayton in NBA 2K than just be DeAndre Ayton. You hear about the stories about staying up late, and it's what he's doing. He's playing video games. I've heard whispers about some outbursts, maybe being late to practice a couple times. But all of that being said, that's because he was under contract. Now he wants a new contract. And I have a feeling, can't guarantee it, but I have a feeling you guys are going to get, at least for good stretches, the best version of DeAndre Ayton that there is, which is not, he's certainly not going to be your alpha over Luka or LeBron. But if you're talking a guy that can get locked in like that and is going to be at best your third option, maybe your fourth option, it's potentially a home run. It really is. There's no real risk if it doesn't work out. And that could happen too, because I could see LeBron holding him accountable and him just not having it. He just won't have it. It could go that way too. But again, it was a cheap contract. You didn't have a center last year. Oh, well, it looks like we don't have one again. We'll figure it out. But if you can get this guy locked in from the mid range, he's as deadly. Like, he can get into these stretches where he looks like prime Kevin Durant from 18 feet. I'm not kidding. It's unbelievable. It'll frustrate you when he's not maybe drawing contact, getting to the free throw line, but he's a big body. He is skilled offensively. And if you could just keep him bought in, he's going to put up big numbers for you. I think at least for stretches, it's going to happen. I think the Lakers, I mean, top 4 in the West. I mean, obviously you have Houston, you have the defending champs, but I think I see him at the 4 spot.
There you go. That's pretty much where a lot of people are seeing it right now, and I can't say I blame you guys for doing that, because that's pretty solid for a team that, again, is going up against one of the most loaded Western Conference, like your team. It's going against one of the most loaded Western Conferences. But you're right, DeAndre Ayton. You and I have been around the block enough to say, a player that wasn't always motivated, finding motivation, players a little healthier in that contract year. Wonder why that is, Peter. Wonder why that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
know indeed. But Peter, again, providing us great insight as always. During the course of the season, I am going to be putting out a lot more content. So I would like to hope that we can revisit our conversation during the course of the year, if that's available to you.
Yeah.
But before we head on out, again, I'm thankful for your time, but please let our audience know, or whoever's watching this, even if they're not a Lakers fan, if I somehow get Portland fans that I'm able to go ahead and bring in over to hear this out, please go ahead and let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on social media at Peter Sampson, Sampson. And of course, subscribe to the Bleav in Blazers podcast. It's fun. This summer, it's fairly intermittent in the off season. Man, I know they want me to do more content, and I should do more content. I'm just not going to force it, man. There's so many podcasts. You listen to so many podcasts. I'm not going to give you another one. Now, once the season gets rolling, we're back to 3-4 times a week. But at least for now, we're chilling out. It's summertime. We're good. Bleav in Blazers.
There you go. Indeed. Bleav in Blazers right there for you. It is Peter Sampson. Please go ahead and check out, once he gets back rolling, on Bleav in Blazers. Indeed. Peter, as always, one of the great voices in the NBA. We love talking to. I am truly indebted for your time, and looking forward to catching up again this season. We'll not wait 2 seasons or anything like that. This season, I will make every effort to catch up this season, my friend.
Gerald, let's make it happen, man.
You got it, my friend. Thank you so much, as always, for being a part of what we do each and every time out right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.